Ebony, speaking of writing on something I'm about to chat with my financial advisor about, but curious on more options when it comes to either investing in funds or holding them in a mortgage offset when it comes to future outcomes / tax implications, say over a 10 to 15-year period. That's the old-fashioned, do I pay down the mortgage?
Yeah. Or
versus
pay down
do
on a
I
mortgage, invest or super.
Now, pay down the mortgage, we're saying offset, but that's effectively what we're doing. We're offsetting.
Economically, it's apart from if you intend to rent your property
Now,
out sometime
this
in the
is
future.
a very simple answer until you plug in the person in your mirror
That's right.
into the equation. It's common thought that if I had an extra $10,000 a year for the long term, I would salary sacrifice that to super and get on with my life.
Yep. As long
If
as
I wanted the best overall outcome.
the best lifetime outcome for lifetime Glen, that is the mathematically correct answer.
Yeah.
If you want to spend the money before you turn 60, it's a terrible answer.
Yeah. So what do we do? What does Ebony do?
Well, depends on what Ebony wants to achieve. Really.
Yeah, what do you want to do? Hey, if you want to, no one was ever worse off from paying off their mortgage early in terms of overall vibe in life, really.
Well,
but then again, what's worse off mean?
Yes, exactly. So the way I look at this, there's a mathematical answer and there's a right for Ebony answer. And those two rarely line up precisely. Humans are not spreadsheets, despite what you might hear on Reddit. And so you've really got to look at the psychology. We just talked about psychology. So the maths is that over a lifetime, the tax benefits of super will go, you should always be putting your spare cash into super.
Yep.
The downside being you don't get to spend it till you're 60, which might be a deal breaker. And then you're really saying, well, do I pay off my home loan?
Yeah.
Or do I invest?
Yeah.
If I'm going to invest, what do I invest in? And do I debt recycle?
Yeah.
And if you rank these by expected outcome, you go super, investing with debt recycling, investing, paying off your home loan.
Yeah.
But the psychological well-being could very well be the opposite.
Yeah. I'm just kind of dicking around here. If Ebony, we have no idea. Ebony wouldn't be over 40. I don't know many Ebonies over 40. Do you? If Ebony was...
None of the Ebonies I know are over 40, should we say.
But if a person was over 40 or 50, so they've put 10 to 15 years. Let's assume 15 years because we only invest for the long term.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Correct.
And I'm actually a big fan of a bit of everything. So we might do a third to super, South Sac. We might do a third in the offset, and we might do a third investing. Like if in doubt, try do both or at least
there's often
two of the three.
Sometimes that can work. In some cases, though, instead of ending up with the best of both worlds, you end up with the worst of both worlds. And the fixing half your home loan and half variable is probably the worst of both worlds. But
also the best of both worlds.
Well, no, it sort of gives you the disadvantages of both, though. But in case of this investing stuff, there is sort of no wrong answer. That the mere fact that you're not spending it today is putting you ahead of a lot of people. The question about whether the outcome of investing beats paying off your home loan, in over 80% of the time, it should be. And the longer term you have, the more likely it is to beat it.
What in these types of situations, and this is where I'm not opposed to doing all three, but where and everyone's going to at me with timing and sequencing and all that. But even if you're like, we'll assume she's got the 10 grand a year free, for example, or 50. We'll assume $100, $200 a week.
Yeah, whatever.
That's left over. Just put it all on the offset, and every 6 months or 3, whatever, go, all right. And maybe I'm thinking, maybe it could be an annual thing or a 6 monthly thing, because it's like, okay, it's been 6 months, money's accrued in the offset account. What's my life look like now?
Yep.
Yeah, we're pretty happy here with the house. I'm still no big changes. I'm going to transfer 3 grand in my super now as a non-concessional deductible contribution, put some in my share portfolio. Yeah, I'll leave some on my house. Maybe that could be a thing. We do it so that way you're getting the benefits throughout the year off the mortgage, but then each year you are going, all right, it's the AGM. We've got to deploy this capital. Has our situation changed? Absolutely, because we're moving to Prague. We're not going to do any investing. We're just going to build cash.
Exactly.
So maybe it could be do both, but not at the same time. Do both. Yeah. Do it as a yearly thing.
And I think you also want to come back and say, well, what am I trying to achieve here? And there's the difference between strategy and tactics. Tactics, doing a bit of everything might be a good idea. From a goal perspective, though, I think focusing on a single goal at a time is good for the human brain. So if your current goal is to be debt-free, then your answer's clear. If your answer is, look, I'm in my 40s, early 50s, I'm in my peak earning years, I should be really making hay while the sun shines. If I'm 50, 55, getting close to retirement, getting close to preservation age, the tax benefits of super now become almost a no-brainer. So from my perspective, I'm over 60, I can treat my super fund like a bank account. Yeah. So it's sort of a no-brainer for me to max out my contributions, even if you pull them back out through a withdrawal or an income stream.
But then for you, that's more of a tax strategy than investing strategy.
Sure. If you're in your 20s and you haven't bought your house yet, well, that's a pretty important goal. Yeah. Emergency stash, debts, home deposit, or investment deposit.
All right. Gun to your head.
Yep.
She's got a mortgage. She's got a 10-year plan to stay in the house. Oh, before I gun to your head this actually is, as interest rates rise, this question of offset demands a bigger answer.
It does.
Sure, when interest rates were 3%, throwing everything in the market. Interest rates go up to 9%. When was that? In the 08s and 09s and 010s or whatever. Probably just going to offset because I know I can get a guaranteed 7% on my mortgage. Yeah. Why do I want to put that capital at risk to try and chase a 7 or 8 or 9?
And part of the question too comes down to tax rate.
Yes.
So if we were back in the 90s with 7, 8, 9% and the 47% tax rate cutting in at $50,000, the dynamics of this decision is different. I generally encourage people to get their home loan down to something that they're comfortable with, not necessarily zero. What is it as a percentage of your income? What is it as a percentage of your house value? What else are you doing with it? And then when you get to that comfortable level, now start looking at investing and generally consider risks.
And the question is also, is the house a stepping stone to a next property and we'll end up keeping it with a tenant in there and rip the money out of the offset and put that into the next house? And if that's the answer, and if that's happening within 5 years, even though in your mind you want to invest for 10 years, I'm probably offsetting it until we get to the next house that we're going to keep for a longer period of time.
So that you get the cash into the new property.
Yeah.
Lots of nuance on this. This is a job that we do for our members all the time.
So you would just get some clear assumptions as possible, just run a couple of strategies. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably more a fan of try and do a bit of both. I don't know. It's the age-old question. What do you prefer?
Yeah.
But and as well, you talked about getting the mortgage to a reasonable rate. If Ebony's situation is she got an inheritance and the mortgage is only $200,000, I'm like, yeah, let's try and just get rid of this mortgage and be done in 3 years and just attack that.
Yeah. And the closer you are to the end, the bigger the impact that happened. If you start with $1 million home loan and you got $200,000 to throw at it, well, it doesn't really change your monthly cash flow. So are you better doing something else with it? All comes down to goal first, then strategy, then tactics.
Yeah.
And you can't answer that question without knowing those. There's a mathematical answer, but that's almost certainly the wrong answer for most people.
Yeah. Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.